Premier League primetime on tape. Jose, Cyrus, and Andre. And you know that Dave, I don't play. In the field, they can talk about it all day. Look, and we moving up. You can try all you want, can't move like us. When it all comes down, they choosing us. And I do gotta say, we don't give a fuck. Premier League primetime, and it's only that. Speak only facts. Say what I want, can't hold me back. Can't hold me back. Premier League primetime, better yet, it's my time. You stay on the sideline. Say what I want, can't hold me back. Premier League primetime.
Hello and welcome back to Premier League Primetime Season 2, Episode 5. And we're all buzzing. And Sirius will be here. He is just a bit late at the moment. But we have reached the first landmark of any YouTube channel, of any podcast. 100 subscribers. Just the beginning. Keep it up. Big ups to all yourselves that have been subscribing, supporting my channel for about a year and a half now. It's been to see where this channel started and to where it is now, and because of just all of us and how we've all evolved, it's been immense. It's been absolutely amazing. So I just wanted to say big ups to all of you. Keep subscribing. It's only the beginning. But now to get right into the show, of course, I'm back home. I'm very happy to be back home just for this episode. Fine. Right. I'll be back at school. But here with me, of course, we have the all fantastic Fab Four. Sirius will be here in a minute or two. But we have Andre and we have Jose. How are both of you? Why didn't I even ask? I should have just already known what was gonna happen. The classic no responding from the rest of the Fab Four. The no responses, honestly. But anyways, but no, on a real level, how are both of you doing now?
Good.
I'm pretty good. Pretty tired. A little stressed this week.
No, I think Jose, I feel you there with your finals, and I think your finals week starts tomorrow. But
yeah, so it's that, and I found out about my college ED on Wednesday as well. So it's a bit of a week.
Well, yeah, definitely is a bit of a weekend. We do wish nothing but the very best of luck. But let's get right into this. The order of the teams that we go through will seem kind of odd because when Sirius gets here, we will run through his. But we'll start with Aston Villa, and they have been looking primarily very good. I'd have to say, 2 games they've only lost 2 games, 1-3, beating Brighton. Wins against Brighton, Crystal Palace, losses against Man City and Liverpool, and a win against Leicester. Ratings for Steven Gerrard and players that have just stood out in general, either positive or negative.
Yeah, I'd probably give him an A. I think that they've been fantastic, and he's really looked like he has made them organized, and he's got their experienced players playing again. Some of their bright sparks, I'd say John McGinn, Douglas Luiz. I'd shout out Ezri Konsa for his performance in the Leicester game. He scored both of their goals in that game. I can't really point out their worst players, to be quite honest. There's not really any shame in losing to Liverpool and City, how good they've been this season, especially Liverpool on a penalty. That was tough for them, but I think they've looked really good since Gerrard has come in.
Yeah, they definitely have looked good, and I have to say Ezri Konsa, and also say Ollie Watkins he's just looked a lot better in regards to the beginning of the season. He just looks something very different about the way he's playing. Maybe Gerrard's kind of striker is obviously very different to the kind of striker Dean Smith plays with in terms of their style of play. And I think Gerrard's has unlocked something new in Ollie Watkins, and he's been phenomenal as well. Into the next side that we have that isn't a team that Sirius is covering, and that is Burnley. Jose, sticking with you. They drew to Palace 3-3. They didn't play match day 13. Match day 14, drawing to Wolves, then losing to Newcastle, and then drawing to West Ham. Not too great from Burnley. Ratings for Sean Dyche and players that have stuck out for you.
Yeah, they worry me, Burnley. I think that they may well go down this year. I think it was kind of bound to happen eventually. Sean Dyche could only keep them up for so long. I think that they fought well in the Palace game against a good opposition. But Wolves and Newcastle, I think, are a bit. Well, Wolves may be expected, but Newcastle's a bit. That does a bit of a bad result for them. I'd probably give Sean Dyche a C minus for that round of games. Best players. I mean, it's really the same two players we always say for them: Dwight McNeil, James Tarkowski. Probably the only players in that team that might get into another team in the Premier League. So
Cornet, I'd also give big shouts to Cornet. He's been really good since coming in.
when he's played, yeah,
And I think he's injured
Scored a-
right now.
scored a lot of goals, but he hasn't gotten a lot of game time this whole season.
No, he hasn't. And he's been playing out of position. He's playing as a second striker. I think he's actually a winger. But yeah, just same old with Burnley, isn't it? And of course, going to the next side, of course, how could we not give Andre Chelsea and his favorite world-class German manager, Thomas Tuchel? Tuchel masterclasses all over the place. We all know it. And Andre absolutely loves it. He loved the Tuchel masterclass against Leicester when Chelsea won by 3-0, then drawing Manchester United, 1-1 draw, then another Tuchel masterclass against Watford, losing to West Ham, and then beating Leeds this past weekend. Ratings for Andre's opinion of the best manager in the world and players that have stood up for you on the good and bad spectrums.
They fell off top spot, but they still have they're still getting points. They're still in the top four. Chelsea, they're an interesting side right now because there's a lot of rotation going on. Defensively, we're used to a Thomas Tuchel side that's kind of keeping it very tight at the back, which they still do, but they've been found out a few times this season, particularly conceding 3 to West Ham. I think they're averagely conceding like at 1.67 goals per game right now. So it's an interesting team. We'll see if they can keep going. Right now I don't know if they're still going to finish top 4, but I think Liverpool and City are both looking stronger than Chelsea at the moment. In terms of bright sparks, Mason Mount has been quite good. I loved that Jorginho touch against United. That certainly was bright. That was great.
All three of us will watch that game, and all three of us.
Yeah.
I remember like packing up my stuff and getting ready to go back to school, and I'm thinking it's all over and it's all done. And then to see Jorginho pull an absolute howler of a mistake, and Jadon Sancho was bound to score, which was great for him. But yeah, that was definitely poor. But would you say it's been more Tuchel masterclasses as you always fancy Andre than none?
No, I think it has somewhat concerned. They've been missing a couple of guys, but their other squad coming back to them, so they'll probably get it more back on track. But yeah, I'm not that scared to play Chelsea around. Like they aren't one of the most
really
straight playing right now. Yeah, for me.
That's very bold. That is very, very bold. Next we have Everton and Andre, sticking with you. Of course, they lost 3-0 to Manchester City and losing to Brentford and Liverpool. And they beat, what a surprise, who they beat. Oh, wow, what a surprise, Arsenal. By 2-1, and then losing to Palace as well by 3-1. What are you giving Rafa and Everton right now? And players that have been good and bad. It's also important to point out the negatives as well as the positives. But players,
definitely.
I mean, there are many.
Look, they're another they're the definition of a mixed bag right now. They're Rafa Benitez has not had it easy. Obviously, he used to manage Liverpool, and then right now they've had a period where they're missing quite a few players. They're playing Solomon Rondon up top, a transfer that had its own scrutiny. So they've had their bright moments and not so bright moments. Demarai Gray is the one that stands out as their best player. Every time you see him, he just always looks a threat. Particularly in the Merseyside derby against Liverpool, no player on Everton looked like threatening Liverpool, but Demarai Gray, and he did in the end.
Demarai, fabulous. He's been phenomenal.
Yeah.
Jose, to quickly ask you, how good is this young boy, and do you think he has a very special future ahead of him?
Well, when I think of Demarai Gray, I always think of that time we beat Leicester 4-1, and at the end he just scored that ridiculous goal. And he's been doing basically that this whole season for Everton. He's been like getting goals out of nowhere in really important games, and that's really big for his team.
You said that there so well. You summed that up there perfectly. Damari Gray's been fabulous. He's been phenomenal for Everton season, and he's been standing out yet again for them. Next, we have Leeds, and what more can I say about Leeds than I have this season? Losing to Tottenham, drawing Brighton, beating Crystal Palace, a draw against Brentford, and losing 3-2 against Chelsea. I mean, ratings for Marcelo Bielsa and Leeds and players on both spectrums.
Yeah, I think that the Tottenham loss and the Chelsea loss are kind of expected. Tottenham looked good under Conte before the COVID outbreak, and obviously Chelsea are a difficult team to beat, and they did get a little unlucky in that game, I think, with the 2 penalties. Whenever you have multiple penalties on against you, I think you're a bit unlucky. The Crystal Palace win was impressive, and the Brentford loss was kind of expected. So I'd probably give them a C plus maybe. Bright sparks really only Rafinha. I mean, he's got 4 times more goals than anyone else in the team right now. So I think worst players. I think Junior Firpo has been very disappointing. I haven't really seen him play well since he left Batiste a few years ago. I used to watch him in the Spanish league, and he was great, but I don't really know what happens with him.
Yeah, he's not been great at all. And players on the positive spectrum, if there have been any.
Yeah, Rafinha, as I said before. Other than Rafinha, maybe Stuart Dallas, Liam Cooper, but even there, I think could be playing a little bit better.
100%, I agree with that. Next, Crystal Palace, and people were wondering how on earth are we getting back to Palace? Like, it's because Sirius is not here, and we've had to move things around, and it's kind of a bit chaotic at the moment. But Crystal Palace draws against Burnley and losses against Aston Villa, Leeds, and Manchester United, and a win against Everton to end that streak of games. Really doesn't look great. I'm looking at these games. Scores for Patrick Vieira and Crystal Palace, and players that have stood out to you on both sides. Andre.
In general, I think Palace are headed in a really positive direction. I feel pretty dumb for doubting Patrick Vieira at the beginning because this is a new Palace side. I think there's a lot more excitement in the fan base right now. They're playing a lot more possession-based football. Their midfielders are getting involved. Their defense is now revitalized, a young defensive line. Their front line still looks sharp. Zaha isn't even the best player anymore. You have like Conor Gallagher that's sneaking in there as just their
Conor Gallagher, and that's another one. I'll interrupt you for that one. Jose, how impressive is Conor Gallagher? I mean, this kid has been nothing but phenomenal since coming to Crystal Palace. He really has.
I've been really impressed by him. Every time I've looked at a Crystal Palace game that they've won, I've seen a goal or an assist from Conor Gallagher. I think that I've been really impressed with some of the goals he's been getting. The last minute goal, I can't remember again who it was against, but it was an amazing goal. And I think it was in their most recent game.
It's the Everton match.
He scored a ridiculous goal in that game. But I do want to echo what Andre said. I was a little doubtful about Vieira's 4-3-3 with Crystal Palace, but at the end of the season, but they've looked really good with it now.
Yeah, definitely. I fully agree with that. I think everyone had their doubts with Vieira. I had my doubts. I didn't put him at the top of my sack list as you lot did. I put Xisco's at the top of mine because of Watford's history and attacking their coaches and whatnot. But I think I put him close to being at the top. But Patrick Vieira, he's just done a tremendous job since coming in, and you got to give him props. Next, we have Liverpool, and they have won every single game in this streak. Wins against Arsenal, Southampton, Everton, Wolves, and Aston Villa. Ratings for Jurgen Klopp and his men, and bright sparks, because there really haven't been bad sparks, haven't there?
There really haven't been any. I think that they've been pretty much perfect. I mean, 4-0 wins, consecutive 4-0 wins against Arsenal, Southampton, 4-1 against Everton, and then 2 clean sheets against 2 difficult opposition, Wolves and Aston Villa. I think it's definitely a perfect day for Jurgen Klopp, and he's really made Liverpool look more and more like the team of 2018, 2019 that did so well in the league. and of course the team of 1920 who did even better. So I think that bright sparks, if this have to say, always Mohamed Salah, Trent Alexander-Arnold as well has been fantastic. I think he's level now with Paul Pogba for assists in the league, which is great for him. I'm a little sad that Paul Pogba couldn't get a little more because he started really well, but it is what it is. Yeah, so I think Mohamed Salah, Trent Alexander-Arnold have been the two best players in this run of games for Liverpool.
100%. I mean, for me, another player that's is Thiago. I have to say, Thiago's come in and look as awful as he was last season. I'm not going to say he's been phenomenal, but he's definitely picked up in these past.
I think he's found his place in the team.
He's found his place. He's rightfully found his place in the side, in the starting 11. And he's been having some good performances. I did see Andre there shaking his head. You disagree?
I don't know. I just don't like Thiago. I feel like he acts like a leader all the time. He's not that. Like, I wouldn't listen to him that much. He annoys me. Even when his defensive play isn't even that good. And then his passing, his technique is incredible. It's the only thing he has that I'll 100% give him. But yeah, I don't know. I'm not that impressed.
Barcelona, he's
too much Thiago.
Barca were linked with Thiago. Apparently, Xavi wants him back.
Yeah. What does that tell you?
As we've seen him learn, Barcelona and transfers are just not a good combination, as you clearly learned. Next, we have Manchester City, and they've also been perfect. Wins against Everton, West Ham, Aston Villa, Watford, and Wolves. So some mixed oppositions in terms of just levels of teams that you're playing against. And scores for Guardiola and City, and bright sparks.
Yeah, definite A's for them, or 10, whatever we do. The City side, it's a very similar City side to last year in that they seem to have it, or how to win the title. Pep Guardiola just has the equation down. It's just they play with an incredible balance between attack and defense. They're very consistent. They're one of the most consistent sides we've ever seen in the Premier League these last few years. And they've definitely kept that going right now. They play with no absolute recognized striker, but they're still getting goals left and right. They've definitely impressed me. In terms of bright sparks, it'd be stupid not to mention Bernardo Silva. He's been absolutely incredible.
One of the best players in the Premier League this season.
Yeah, and it's an interesting that there's a pattern with all the teams I've covered so far, is that we're pointing out the attacking mids, and it sort of has shown that maybe some of the attacking mids that we expect to be amazing have not been that impressive. You look at Kevin De Bruyne, Bruno Fernandes, Dele Alli, but
don't mention Dele Alli in the same brackets as Bruno Fernandes, Kevin De Bruyne.
All these three exceptional attacking mids that we expect a lot of.
Two exceptional, one washed down. I don't ever want to hear those three.
I think Bruno, KDB, and Lucas Moura.
Oh yes, Lucas Moura.
Well, Lucas Moura has been decent this season, actually, but no, but we have this rise of this new brand of really exciting attacking mids. We had Conor Gallagher, Demarai Gray, and Bernardo Silva, who are all smashing it right now. They're all playing really good. I guess you could throw Mason.
I have a question for you guys. Who do you take right now, Bernardo Silva or Mohamed Salah?
For Manchester United right now.
Well, who do you think is better?
Oh, who's better? Mohamed Salah. I'd say it without.
Yeah.
I'd actually go.
Yeah,
I'd go Bernardo.
I
don't know. Maybe it's controversial, but I think I think he'd provide more. He'd provide more for my team. I think he'd provide.
In terms of more functions, I'd go Bernardo Silva. But
yeah,
in terms of just ruthless goal scoring, it's Mohamed Salah for me all day. But it depends what you're looking for in that sort of.
Yeah, true.
And there's a similar way in they approach their football in terms of they approach it with this positivity and this smile on the pitch, but still just driving, working at every ball. They're both hard workers. They have a lot in common. They're
such great dribblers.
Yeah, that's another thing. They're both desperate to get involved always, and yeah, they're probably the top two players in the league right now. They're both exceptional.
By a million miles, they're definitely the top two in the league right now. Next, Manchester United, and he's gone. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is gone after an embarrassing 4-1 loss to Watford. That was my welcome home for Thanksgiving break. Just getting put in a ditch by Watford, which is just nice. Just really, really nice. Ollie sacked, and then Michael Carrick came in as the interim. Difficult games, 2 games that he had ahead of him. Got a point from Chelsea, got all 3 points against Arsenal. And then Ralf Rangnick, the German professor, comes in. And both 1-0 wins against Crystal Palace and Norwich. For the managers, we're giving Oli a 0 for the 1 game. Scores for Carrick and scores for Rangnick. And were you surprised that Carrick resigned and not the other members of the coaching staff? Of all of them, you have to say he did the best job of them.
Wait, real quick. Why did Carrick resign exactly? Like, was it just, what was it?
I think it was because Ralf Rangnick was basically coming in, and they didn't really need him as the head coach. And I think Michael Carrick said that he thought his time had come now to leave the club.
I think he maybe felt like he was a big part of what happened under Ollie, and he just felt like if he let Ollie leave and stayed there, he wasn't really taking any accountability for it. And that might have been part of it. I really don't know though. It wasn't really publicized.
Regardless, it was honorable.
Yeah, and I respect him a lot for it. So I think that I didn't watch the Watford game because I had a feeling that something like this would happen. And then I watched it back, and it was probably one of the worst performances I've ever seen from my team. So I'm happy I didn't watch that one. I think it would have been very depressing. The Chelsea game, I actually was quite impressed by how we dealt with Chelsea defensively, at least. I think we were a little unlucky to concede the penalty, and I think that our goal was well taken by Sancho. And Chelsea haven't really been the same since that game, so I've appreciated that. The Arsenal win, I was impressed by. I thought we attacked really well, and Ronaldo obviously had a really, really, really good game in that one, so I was very happy with that. The Palace game, I thought we performed really well. We were a little. I don't know what the word is right now, but we should have had more, I think.
We were unlucky.
Especially, we were a little unlucky. I think we should have had more, especially in the first half in that game. The Norwich game, I think that, I don't know, everyone was saying we were really bad. I didn't think we were that bad. It was like, I thought Norwich played really, really well in that game. I think we were definitely lucky to get the penalty and win it, but I think that we weren't that bad. But I am a little concerned that the little bounce you get when the manager comes in, it already seems like it's gone.
Yeah, 100%. I definitely do see that. Then that North game for me, it was just a very unconvincing. Not that it was horrendous; it was extremely unconvincing. How Norwich didn't score 7 or 8 just shows how good David De Gea is.
Yeah, David De Gea was amazing in that game.
And scores for Carrick and Rangnick and players that have stood out.
Michael Carrick, I give an A. Rangnick, I'd probably give a B+ because I feel like we should have. I feel like Norwich are just like, you can't look at a 20th place team and say they played so well. You have to I think we have to be beating them by more than one goal.
100%. And yeah, Michael Carrick definitely deserves that A. The 2 games are 2 difficult games coming to, against the European champions, and then in inform Arsenal as well. Let's not forget they were very good in form.
Yeah.
The loss to Liverpool, they were very good in form, and players that have stood out.
Cristiano Ronaldo, winning us games, so many games by himself. I've really liked Eric Bailly when he's played. I thought he's been fantastic, and I think he looks like our most committed center back. And by that I mean he's always diving in front of the ball. He's always getting in front of shots. He's blocking shots and making sure De Gea doesn't have as much to do as he probably should. Other than Bailly, De Gea, I've really liked Fred in the past few games. To be honest, I thought he looked really improved. I think. You didn't like him in the Norwich game?
I thought he was all right against the Norwich game, but I
thought Fred had a good game. I liked what he was doing, but a lot of people.
Not as good as he was in the Palace game, but he had a decent performance. But yeah, Andre, I saw you holding your hands up, and yes, no more Fred slander. I've heard enough Fred slander from you saying I'd rather have Winks instead of Fred. Hold your hands up. I don't ever want to hear that. The rubbish. Fred over Harry. I'd rather have Winks over Fred. No. And for me, probably the biggest player that stood out is Jadon Sancho. The man has stood out.
He really improved. It really frustrated me when they took off Rashford instead of Sancho in the Norwich game.
Or you said
when they took off Sancho instead of Rashford. Sorry, that's what I meant.
And honestly, for players on the negative spectrum, Marcus Rashford's been so poor. He's been really
Yeah, and he had a really good start, so I don't really know. I don't know what's happened with that. He's just been like he's been trying to dribble too much, I think. He hasn't been releasing it fast enough. He had a really good cross into Ronaldo. Well, actually, it wasn't that good of a cross because it was behind Ronaldo, but it was just a little bit off from being a great assist.
he's been very, very poor. Marcus Rashford, but continuing on into the next side, and that is of course Norwich. Andre, um, they had a little bounce under Dean Smith, winning against Southampton, then draws against Wolves and Newcastle, then losing to Tottenham, which of course, I'm hearing Andre chant, Tottenham are back, and then losing to Manchester United this past weekend. Scores for Norwich and Dean Smith and bright sparks and players who have also not been as good.
Yeah, I mean, 5 points from 5 matches isn't that horrible for a team that's complete bottom of the table, especially when 2 of those matches are against the likes of Tottenham and United. It's going to be interesting to see where this team can pick up points, and I think Dean Smith knows that. I think his approaches have been very tactically set up. It's been like a counter tactical approach to whoever he's playing, I've noticed. It's going to be an interesting season. I think their starting 11 isn't horrible. I mean, you look at their fullbacks. You've got Max Aarons and Brandon Williams. Those are, you could argue, mid-table.
Brandon Williams a goat.
Yeah, you could argue that's a mid-table pullback. That's not horrible. They've still got Timo Pukki up top. Tim Krul, I think, has been making some crucial saves. I think he's maybe got to show some leadership.
Andre, wait, yeah. He's arrived. The man, the myth, the legend has arrived. He has arrived. But continue on with Norwich until
that's it. It's going to be they've got potential to get points. They're still right now the number 1 team to be relegated, but they've picked up points the way they have, and they won't be a complete. What was the team that was really crappy last year? But I think of Huddersfield Town that one season that was really horrible. They scored like 14 points. They were really bad. Like, it's not a situation like that. They can hopefully do something this Dean Smith side.
Yeah, hopefully, and stay up, because I still predict Norwich are going back down. I don't think it will make
it's Norwich,
I don't think this will make a difference in general. Sirius is still connecting. And in the meantime, I will go on to the next side. That is Southampton. Jose, losses against Norwich and Liverpool, draws against Leicester and Brighton, and a 3-0 loss to Arsenal. Bright sparks, and players haven't been as good for Southampton, and scores for Ralph Hasenhüttl.
Yeah, it's been pretty disappointing. I think the Leicester and the Brighton results are actually not that bad considering the quality of opposition, but the Norwich, Liverpool, and Arsenal games all look very disappointing. And I think it was bound to happen. I think last episode they were on a good run of form, and we were talking about Tino Livramento as being one of their best players, and he's 18 years old. So how you can rely on him for a run of games to get you that many points is kind of ridiculous. In terms of bright sparks, Mohamed Salisu would be one of them, as well as Shea Adams. I think they recently lost him or they didn't have him in their recent game, I think. I'd point them out as their best players. As their worst players, I'd probably go with maybe El Yanusi. Hasn't been particularly good. Or I'd probably just go with him. But they look pretty disappointing, and I think they can turn around. They have a talented squad.
Yeah, I think they can turn around, but that's just been Southampton. They always have. It's always a roller coaster with them. They start off really well, then they dip. They have a little Christmas dip, then they dip slightly in around February-ish time, and then it's just honestly, it's just a constant roller coaster. But Sirius has arrived. Oh, that's wonderful.
I'm locally somehow ill again, boys.
Oh my god.
No, well, Sirius. I'm first of all 100 subscribers. What are you feeling right now?
I'm feeling absolutely ecstatic, Dave. I just got a 55 on my final, and I'm sick as balls.
Lovely. Well, we'll go right back to the top since you have now arrived. We'll start off with Arsenal. Not too bad, but not too great either. 4-0 loss against Liverpool, then a win against Newcastle, then losing to Manchester United and Everton, and a win against Southampton. Scores for Arsenal and Mikel Arteta, and who have been the players that have stood out for you in this run of games?
Yeah, it hasn't been that bad. I think the loss against Man U was particularly disappointing. Everton as well. I think it's most disappointing because we were up in each of those games, and I feel like we gave away the lead. I think Odegaard's challenge was silly, but speaking of Odegaard, he has been scoring recently. That is a player that has been impressive to me. Players not so impressive. Aubameyang's been terrible.
They've been horrendous.
Partey hasn't been very good recently either.
Party hard.
And I'm excited that Tierney's come back. He was good last game. Got an assist. So.
Yeah, fair enough. And what are your thoughts on the return of the best defensive midfielder in the Premier League, Granit Xhaka?
I wish he got injured again. I'll go and break his legs if I go to a game.
And that tells you how much Sirius loves and his affection for Granit Xhaka. Next, Sirius sticking with you, Brentford, and they've had some decent results. I'm not gonna lie. Drawing Newcastle and then a win against Everton, losing to Tottenham, drawing Leeds, and a win against Watford. Scores for Thomas Frank and Brentford, and players that have stood out to you.
Yeah, they had a really good start to the season. Then kind of in the middle started dropping points, but the last 4 games haven't been bad at all. They lost to a small side like Tottenham. But besides that, win against Watford is solid, and a win against Everton is also solid. Honestly, like if Ivan Toney gets going, it should be good. He did score against Everton, and they have had a couple of penalties. Before the season, I said they're going to be a mid-table side, and I think they're here to stay for a long time. I'd probably give them a 6.5 last 4 games.
Definitely. I agree with that in entirety. Moving to Brighton, and their results haven't been great, but not that bad. Only 1 loss against Aston Villa by 2-0. Steven Gerrard's first game as a manager in the Premier League, and then draws against Leeds, West Ham, and Southampton. And this past weekend, they didn't have a game; they didn't play. Ratings for Graham Potter, of course, Sirius's favorite striker in the Premier League, Neo Maupay, and bright sparks and players who haven't been as great.
Oh, sorry, I was muted. And the lights somehow shut off. Yeah. So it hasn't been that bad. Obviously, I have to unfortunately give credit to Maupay. Scored some late goals. That's what the Premier League's about, getting late scrappy goals. That's how you stay up. That's how you progress. So not bad overall. I'd probably give them a 5 or 6.
Fair enough. And players that have stood out to you for Brighton.
I guess you have to say Maupay. Also, I forgot his name. Why did I forget? I'm locally blanking here, but I could come back to you on that.
And Cucurella's been decent.
Yeah, that's who it is. That's who it is. I always remember him for his performance against us, and ever since then, I've been kind of keeping track with him. He's been very good.
He has been very good. I 100% agree with that. Next, we have Leicester losing 3-0 to Chelsea, a win against Watford, a draw against Southampton, a loss against Aston Villa, and a 4-0 win over Newcastle. Scores for Leicester and Mr. Bottle Job, Brandon Rodgers, and bright sparks and players who haven't been as great for you, Sirius.
I think a player who stood out, especially last game, was Tielemans. He scored 2. I think he's a pretty solid player, to be honest. Also, someone who probably needs to get going, who also scored against Newcastle, is James Madison. He hasn't had the best start to the season, but we've seen what he can do over the past couple of years. And I feel like if he starts to get going, so will the team. Obviously, Jamie Vardy providing 2 goals against Watford. For his age, he's still been brilliant.
I agree with that 100%. And a score for Brandon Rodgers.
I'd say a 5. I mean, like, we have to take into the fact that they still have Europa League games, so obviously,
Our Conference League games now.
all right, yeah, shitty league games.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's, where small clubs like Leicester and Tottenham, belong. But that's okay. Next, we have Newcastle, and not great, to be honest with you. A draw against Brentford, losing to Arsenal, another draw against Norwich, a win against Burnley, and a loss against Leicester. Scores for Newcastle and Eddie Howe, and players that have stood out in a positive or negative way. And do you think Newcastle really could go down this season?
Well, the January window is gonna really prove if they will or not, to be honest. Now with the new owners coming in, they have a lot more to spend, a lot more to do. So it's gonna kind of be how they operate. Goals have been kind of lackluster in the last 4 games, that's for sure. They need to get back on track. Someone who can help them get back on track, Callum Wilson, he did score. But they just need to keep improving. They definitely need to buy some new talent, keep St. Maxime consistent. Callum Wilson has 2 in his last 4. So if he could stay healthy and continue his form, I see them staying up, but they're going to have a big window.
100%. I definitely agree with that. Next, and Andre, shifting to you, we have Tottenham. And this is a side who have only 3 games in this run of games from match day 12 to match day 16. So a win against Leeds, they didn't play match day 13. A win against Brentford, a win against Norwich, and they didn't play match day 16. Scores for Tottenham and the Italian Nuno, and players that have stood out for you, Andre.
Italian Nuno, huh? Yeah, it's been better, but I think they specifically appointed Conte at a time when the fixture run was pretty easy. So I think all those games we should expect to win. You look at, it was Leeds, Brentford, Norwich, and then Burnley and Brighton were missed out on. So it's expected really that he would get points off those. But in terms of why they've been canceled, it was a weather thing at Burnley. Supposedly they didn't turn on their pitch heating. People say it was a Sean Dyche masterclass because they were missing a lot of players. So it's made our schedule a hell for December. And then Brighton, there was a COVID outbreak, and that's horrible for the league too, because you're starting to see at other clubs. I think Leicester have had a small one. Have United have one? Did I read that?
Yeah, we had a small one as well.
Yeah,
yeah. So let's just pray that it doesn't keep spreading, because I want to spend the festive season watching soccer, not with my family. So
Yeah,
let's just hope that everything is okay. In terms of our bright players, Ben Davies has been one that's been a crazy good defender. Him and Reguilon have been rotating well, overlapping and underlapping runs, getting into the other half. It's been almost Chris Wilder-like, the way that Ben Davies has been involved in the attack. He got 2 assists the other day. So those two have had a really good communication. I think those two have been our brightest sparks. And Oliver Skip has still been quite good too. But Reguilon and Davies have been really rising on the left side. They've been great. And as far as Antonio, then yeah, I'd give him like a I could give him like a A. He's been good. But again, this was expected that we'd get these ones.
Yeah, definitely. That's all well said and done. But are you concerned by Antonio Conte's continuous selection in the midfield where you see this Højbjerg and Skip midfield pivot? It's a bit pragmatic and defensive, isn't it? Would you want to see him bring Ndombele back into it, or do you think Tottenham just need to buy a completely new midfielder for that position?
Yeah, 100%, because they've tried to get Højbjerg a bit more involved in the attack, but I just don't think he has the qualities to do that. Lucas Moura has honestly been kind of a free roam tucking in, so he's played as an attacking mid, so he's been the one that's almost been the attacking midfielder, weirdly enough.
Three formation though.
Yeah, that's why. But he's been free roaming. You look at his goal, the good one that he got, that was from a very central area on the pitch. He's been operating almost as an attacking mid lately. I think it's where he's best. So it's we're going to see what happens. But I think the midfield is an area where I would want a bit more rotation. I would want an attacking midfielder. You look at what he did with Nicola Barella there at Inter. I hope that we can get one of our players to kind of play that role. But yeah.
Yeah, definitely fair enough. Next, we have Watford. Jose, shifting to you. And of course, the only win that they got was the first game in that run of games against Manchester United. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's final game in charge, 4-1. And then losses to Leicester, Chelsea, Manchester City, and Brentford. So to be fair to them, that's definitely not the easiest fixture list when you be honest. Scores for Claudio Ranieri and Watford and players that have stood out to you.
Yeah, it's a pretty terrible fixture list. I think that the United win was pretty impressive. I'd probably give Ranieri like a C plus just because he lost like four out of the 5 games. In terms of best players, I'd go with their attackers, particularly Emmanuel Dennis, as well as Josh King and Ismail Sarr. I think their attack is pretty good, but I think that they definitely missed the cycling GK a little bit in goal as well.
Yes, they do miss a cycling GK in goal. The cycling GK is world-class talent in goal. But yeah, Emmanuel Dennis has been very, very good. He was nominated as a player of the month or as a potential player of the month winner this month.
Yeah, he's been getting Andre some fantasy points as well.
He's definitely been getting Andre some fantasy points.
Wait, what were we talking about today? Which player?
Emmanuel Dennis.
Emmanuel Dennis.
Oh yeah, I've had him since the beginning. I was deciding between him and Odson Edward like a bunch of match weeks ago. I literally made the right decision on that one. Him and
Next, we have West Ham and Sears coming to you. A loss against Wolves, losses against Wolves and Manchester City, and then a draw with Brighton, a win against Chelsea, and a draw against Burnley. So the West Ham definitely dropping off a bit. Scores for West Ham and David Moyes and players that have stood out to you. And he is gone missing.
Sorry, may you repeat that? I was being disturbed.
All right. West Ham losses against Wolves in Manchester City.
Wash your hands.
Against Brighton, a win against Chelsea, and a draw against Burnley. Scores for David Moyes and West Ham and players that have stood out to you on both sides.
Yeah, I think a common problem that West Ham has sometimes is that they're able to beat the big teams but not the small teams, which is kind of weird. But I'm just really impressed with them. They've been pretty consistent the last 2 years. Moyes has been good, which means maybe the problem was Man U and not him. But anyways, overall, I think Declan Rice has been great this season. Masuaku, I think that's his name. He's been solid as well, winning goal against Chelsea. Disappointing result against Brighton. Mopé scored right at the end. And Soucek, whatever. He's been brilliant this season, so yeah.
Yeah, Arthur Masuaku's been a definite standout for me. And for me, Kurt Zuma has to be given a shout as well. He's been brilliant since he's coming from Chelsea, shoring up that back line for West Ham. And last but not least, we have Wolves. On over to you. A win against West Ham, draws against Norwich and Burnley. A loss to Liverpool, Divock Origi, of course, getting the winner in that game. And a loss to Manchester City, Raheem Sterling for the 100 club. So congrats and big ups to Raheem Sterling for that. Well deserved for him. Scores for Wolves and Bruno Lage and players that have stood out to you on both sides.
Yeah, this is a side that is amazing defensively as of recent. They're barely conceding, but they're also barely scoring, which is not the balance that you want to have unless you're decent at scoring like Chelsea. Bruno Lage, I think he's still doing a good job. They still look very energetic. They look driven, but there are some missing pieces at this team. I don't know what they are because they have the quality in attack, I think, but their players aren't. They're not creative enough. They're not getting enough goals in. In terms of good players, it's all on their defense. I think Connor Cody has shown a lot of leadership. He had that goal line save against Liverpool. Yeah, I'd say that's about it for Wolves. Is very solid defensively. I mean, City couldn't break them down. They needed to do it through a penalty. All the top teams needed to this last game week. It was a match-winning penalty, and Chelsea, City, Liverpool, and United, all their matches, all. So yeah, this Wolves set. Yeah, we'll see what they are. I give Bruno Lage like a B or C.
Fair enough. I definitely fancy Sirius's background there for a quick moment. And anyways, and that should do it for our show. 100 subscribers. Please keep on subscribing. It's only the beginning. Let's keep this going.
AI, where's the 100 sub special?
Yeah, we should.
We will do a 100 sub special when Sirius returns from DC.
We should do a compilation of our funniest moments.
That sounds like a
I would fancy
Also, if we get to 200 subscribers. Yeah.
That sounds like a phenomenal
If we get to 200 subscribers in 2 weeks, I'll kiss Deva.
I would not fancy that. No comment. Anyways, that will do it for today's episode. Please keep subscribing to Premier League Primetime, and if you like this, smash like on the video, comment below. What have your thoughts been on these past match days? And wherever you are in the world, have a great day or evening.